Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jessey Kwong. Hey, how's it going? This is Jessey here from the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast. This is episode 100. And I've brought on my co-founder here. We get a chance to talk about what it's like to develop a piece of software alongside, an area, an industry, a niche that we work with, and a community that we work with. What that's like, what it's like to build out features and understand what the process is like. We get to talk about, what his day-to-day is and how to grow a team and how that also aligns with growing a land business team as well. So we get a chance to talk about that and some of our experiences and some exciting things like AI, what that might look like for the future of Pebble. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this episode here with my co-founder, Kevin. I've had him on, I think, a couple years back, and now he's in a different location. So I'm so excited to present to you to this episode, my conversation with Kevin Rockwood, my co-founder here at Pebble. Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is our 100th episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast here. We've done 100 episodes here, and I've got my very, very special guest here, Kevin, my co-founder here at Pebble. Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, Jessey, I'm doing great. It's a great day here in Wisconsin. Snowed yesterday on Halloween. It's just it's cold.
So this is not a regular episode where I have, people outside of Pebble. This is more of a conversation with Kevin, and honestly, we're probably going to talk a little bit about what we do here and the company we've built here. But Kevin, I don't think I've had you on the podcast before, have I? Oh, no, you know what? I did have you on before one time, I think, and we were sort of talking about your journey. So if you guys want to check out that episode, we'll probably be touching upon that again. And if you want to listen to that past episode, you can find that in the show notes here as well. So Kevin, thanks for joining us. This time you're joining us. Where are you right now? Yeah, I think you just mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved here from Korea in the springtime, and then spent the summer trying to find a house. Finally found one, and we're officially cheeseheads. So yeah.
So if you guys didn't know, Kevin and I met each other virtually back in 2020. And Kevin, at that time, and we, as we talked about in our past episode as well, I mean, you were living in Korea. I think at that time when we recorded it, you were visiting the States and you were at a library when we recorded that episode. That might have been like episode 50 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been on one of our trips back to the US. Yeah. So I was living in Korea for many years, and so we met online while I was there, and then we basically built this company for 3 years while I was living over there, and I just moved back. So now it'll be easy.
I literally caught you at the last week of your I guess living in Korea back in during spring, and you were just getting packing, and happened to be I finally also made it out to Japan because my wife's family's out there since COVID, and we were able to catch each other in Korea, and then they had a land mastermind as well out there, which was very coincidental. So that was really cool to sort of experience all of that together.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So yeah, we've been spending the last 3 years building this company here together. We've got a team now. it's not just me and you anymore.
That's right.
We've got a team now, and we're closing in close to 12, 13, 14 type of number, I believe, with a few people that are not considered full time, but they are working, full in the business as well.
Hmm.
Kevin, you're on that product side of things. You're the guy behind really Pebble and the building out the product. Um, Thinking through design to how we piece all these things together. Can you walk us through, at a very high level, what it was like to build Pebble at the start and what it's like now working with other team members behind the scenes, especially on the
Yeah,
product side of things?
man, that's such a big question. So when we started out, well, when I started out, I was doing land investing while living in Korea, and I built what became Pebble as a tool for myself. It was just a way to save time, automate some processes, keep track of things, keep everything in one system, sort of all the things that we talk about Pebble being. Like I built that for myself. I was the only user. It was hard coded to my website. Like it just worked for me. And so when we met there in spring of 2020 and you proposed that we try to take this thing and make it an application that other people could use, initially it was basically just tweaking what I had built to work for other people, and then we launched, and then we started hearing from the community what additions we wanted, and we've been really kind of striving towards growing this thing and growing this thing. And I mean we did it pretty much ourselves for I don't know, a year and a half maybe before we brought in other product people to work on the actual code base and design and that sort of thing. And yeah, that's been a real journey, as you and I both know, just learning how to become leaders and learning how to bring in other people to take up the slack and really and drive things forward. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I can't do everything by myself. And going from that, where you're the sole developer, to going where you have somebody else that you're working with, is a big step. And it took me a long time to get over the psychological hurdles of giving up control and being a leader and being an inspiration for other people. Like that's a major step that took a long time. But now looking back, it's been a really awesome journey for both of us. Like we now have a team of really great people who are doing awesome stuff, and we can sort of get our heads out of the sand and look down the road a little bit.
Yeah. I don't think we sort of ever imagined when we first started that it would snowball into something like this, and at the rate that we sort of snowballed into this as well, and
Yeah.
built out a SaaS company, a software as a service company. There was just so much learning that we had to do. I mean, we come from such different backgrounds, and to come together to build a company like this, it's all very still new to us, but it's also, I don't know. I felt like we've been in a flow for like 3 years trying to figure this stuff out, and it's been awesome. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned you've now got people that you're working with, and you recently spoke at Sumner, our good friend Sumner, at his event, the oh my gosh, the Land Investing Accelerator, the LEA Mastermind for 2023. You talked
Hmm.
about building a supercharged team, um,
Hmm.
and we've gone through a lot of learnings, hiring and letting go of team members. Um, what are some sort of the big takeaways on the hiring side of things? And I know you sort of spoke more about this, at the event, but I'd love for you to share some of things that you highlighted during that presentation about that growing a team, and we don't need to go into the nitty gritty details, but was there
Mhm.
anything that really stuck out to you that might have been a difficult learning lesson for you, that was a little bit painful for you, so that our listeners can sort of take some of those lessons and bring it to their own companies?
Yeah, I didn't touch on this too much, but something that I really learned was um, how to be okay with not being the biggest or the best company in the world. When we're hiring like a software engineer, obviously I want to hire the best software engineer out there. And for a long time, I had the assumption that no one the best software engineers out there wouldn't want to work for a piddly little company with a couple guys who started it. We're bootstrapped. We're not this high flying, you know, blockchain startup making billions of dollars in investment and all this stuff. Um, so I came into hiring with this sort of um, like crippling notion that like, oh, like you're going to be too good for us, or we're not good enough to go after the really great people because they're going to go work for these crazy big companies. um what I've learned is that that's not true at all, that our story, I think, resonates with a lot of people. And i've I've learned to tell that story of how this company started while I was in Korea, how you and I met, right when the pandemic was happening and we couldn't meet each other for 2 years, and how we've been a bootstrapped company and how we work so closely with our customers. And that story, I've learned, really resonates with a lot of people. And the people that we've ended up hiring are those people that really buy into that. And I found that like those some of those people are really really top notch talent. And um yeah, so I've gotten over that insecurity and just being confident that people will want to work for us. And I think that goes for a lot of land investors out there. When you're a one person shop and you're hiring your first virtual assistant or acquisition manager or whatever it is, like you're going to be insecure about, why would I, you're going to have those insecurities about the people that you're going after, that you're targeting. And I would just say that it's all about defining your values. What do you really care about with your company, making those crystal clear, and um, what is your story? Like that excitement that you can tell somebody when you first got into land investing and first got that first success. There was some I almost guarantee there was some excitement around that first deal that you did.
Yeah.
And when you hire people, when you're interviewing them, explain that. Like really dig into that excitement that you felt, and you'll see people light up around that, and those are the people that you want to bring on board. So that's one thing I've learned.
Do you, when you're sharing the story, and you're conveying that over, is that typically only through the interview process? Do you sort of have that in the job posting as well? Um,
Yeah.
how do you, like, what does the logistics of that look like?
Yeah, so the job posting, we try to include a small piece of that.
Yeah.
So we try to have our job post include some catchy title, and then we give a brief couple sentence intro of what we are. We're a bootstrapped SaaS company founded by two friends in 2020. Um, and then right below that, we talk about our values, like the five things that we really care about as a company. And it's likely the people who are interviewing aren't going to read every word of a job description, but we try to really make that core value piece like the very first thing on on our job posting, just because that tends to resonate with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then during the interview process, we do like a 30-minute interview with every applicant. Well,
Mm.
everyone that we decide to go forward with, we do a 30-minute intro interview, and I ask sort of an intro question that's like, what makes you excited about joining Pebble? And then right after that, I'll tell this basically 5-minute history of what we are and what we're doing, and where we came from, and give them that first success story. And yeah, and then we go into some more detailed questions there. But I'm always surprised at like how you can gauge a lot with, if you tell that story and people get lit up, like that's a good sign. Some people won't, and that's fine too, because maybe your story is not what they care about. So
Yeah.
that's fine too. That's a good signal.
The other thing you mentioned here is your values, your core values. What, like, I know how we do it, but how would you suggest other teams to figure out their core values? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, what would you suggest? Because
So
I
I
believe
th-
core values are so important, and
yeah.
I think they're super underrated, especially when you're a small team. But
Yeah.
it's such a great way to align team members. So sorry.
Hmm. So I we went through that book called Vivid Vision, and that Vivid Vision book, I can't remember the author, but he talks through how to vision your company out 5 years when you've got a big team and you're making millions of dollars. Like, what does that look like very specifically? And then a lot of that backtracks into, what does that team value, and what are those core things that you really really care about. And so we went through that process, and I think that really helped shape our values, the
Hmm.
kind of people we want to work with, the kind of company we want to create,
The culture that
and
we create. Yeah.
the culture that we want. Those core, you know, I always say that if I had to be on a 40-hour road trip with someone, what kind of person would I want to be talking to? Like, what kind of person would I want to be with me there? And try to just distill those values down into a few bullet points. And it's really important. Yeah, it's not something that a lot of people think about, but it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And a lot of those core values, I mean, core values, Kevin, we revisit these on a yearly basis as well. Or if
Yeah.
we when we're probably going through hiring process, we have to revisit these things. But I mean, it is also living because the company culture does and can change over time. I also
Hmm.
one thing that I remember also is like a lot of your core values are all already there. It's not like you're pulling them out of thin air. They already there. They're part of your culture, even if it's like you and your partner or whoever. There is a culture there as well. So that's a probably
Hmm.
another really good place to look at. What kind of culture do you guys have already in place? So appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing that. Let's jump into the product side of things. I learned
Sure.
so much working. I don't come from a technical background. I come from a marketing background and a growth perspective side of things. And um, you know, I I laugh because I I would imagine some of the conversation we've had early on must have felt a little bit cringy because, hey, let's try this, let's try that, and we both learned a lot too, and but I've learned a lot, in terms of how you think through, um, especially features. I mean, that's probably like that's what a a lot of people rely on us for building out features and using the product that suits them. And
Hmm.
so when when you're sort of coming up, or when we're coming up with features, and we're evaluating maybe a suggestion on a feature, somebody made a suggestion. What sort of goes through in your mind in terms of evaluating things like, do we do this? How do we do it? When do we do it? What, like,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to share this, because I think a lot of people just don't realize how much thought gets put into the things that we put together here, and how we evaluate things.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying that the universe of things that we could build is infinite. It is literally infinite. There are, we could build a calendaring system and add, contact syncing with LDAP servers, and we could add invoicing and so like there's a huge swath of things that can be built. And I guarantee at some point in our history, somebody has asked for that thing. And it takes a lot of discipline to hone in on what we are, like what is the problem we're trying to solve, and what features are we going to build that are core to that problem. And I think there were multiple things that we've done, multiple paths we've gone down where we realize that like maybe this isn't core. And sometimes you have to build it before you see that it's not a core thing. And yeah, it's just it takes a lot of discipline, and things just take a lot more time than you expect. Even as a developer, like I cannot estimate you how long something is going to take. And if you've ever worked with a developer, you've probably gotten super frustrated because they'll tell you something like, "Oh yeah, that'll take 3 or 4 days," and then a month later, they're like, "Yeah, maybe it'll be another few weeks," because yeah, things that can seem simple just and when you get down into the weeds, uncover a lot of intricacies that are hard to see on the surface. And I think yeah, that's that's sort of my hot take on that because it's hard. It's hard.
You mentioned it in your answer. What is the problem we're trying to solve? And
Hmm.
this is, I think, such a big thing, because I think a lot of people will come to us with, feature requests to do this and this, but they don't really distill down to the problem. And,
Yeah.
walk us through that. I wish I had an example to kind of throw in your face here and like, okay, well, Kevin, why don't you walk us through that? But, how do you sort of think through that? How do you reach the very bottom to figure out, okay, this is the problem we're trying to solve? What does that nowadays
Hmm.
look like? I know nowadays, we're hopping on calls with users and people in the space, and get their thoughts on things. But especially when you were doing it yourself, you didn't have as much time to chat with everybody to figure things out and do user interviews. Like, how did you sort of think through that?
Yeah, I think that core question, what problem are we trying to solve? What is the user trying to do here? Oftentimes we'll get requests or we'll just hear this in talking that you'll hear something like I would like to add a tag to my something. Like I would like to tag my
Yeah.
properties with some extra thing. And that's what the user is asking for, but you need to start asking those questions of okay, why? Like why do you want to tag the property with some extra thing? And they'll say, well, I want to be able to filter my properties for flood zone and this particular thing. Well, why do you want to do that? And then that generates another conversation. Well, I don't want to purchase properties that might be in a flood zone. Okay. If you were able to do that, what would be the benefit? Well, I got burned last year because I bought a property that was in a flood zone and it cost me $10,000. Okay, like that's your why. Like we just dug through 4 layers because you lost money, and that's an emotional thing for you. So you want to prevent losing money at its core. And so we then have to back out and say, like, okay, like, what if that's our ultimate goal, prevent our user from buying a bad property and losing money? Like, how can we solve that? And maybe the solving of that looks totally different than what was originally asked for. And yeah, it's that uncovering of those layers to get down to the deep truth, and then looking at, like, how do we best solve that problem to in the interface. That's the key. That's the key to, like, a good design. And these some companies are just fantastic at it. The Apples of the world. There's a reason why Apple takes. I think the famous one was, like, it took them 5 years to build copy paste into iOS, right? Like, you would think that is oh yeah, just like add copy paste, like that should take you a day. No, it took Apple 5 years because they had to iterate on every reason of why you're trying to do this, how can we best solve this, all this stuff. And there's just so much thought that goes into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that we really focus on.
Yeah. I've certainly learned a lot. I love, all the product related stuff that we do and track down. How do you end up prioritizing then?
Mm,
We used
that's
to
hard.
we used to have a Santa Claus wish list. It was just a lot
Yeah.
of features back in the day. And so how do you think we've been prioritizing? I know we're very close with our community, but I'd love to, yeah, from your perspective, how
Mhm.
how do you sort of view us as prioritizing features and solving problems within the product itself?
Yeah, so there's a few different buckets of work to be done. There's the bucket of, like, infrastructure stuff. That's typically stuff that the user doesn't see, but it's very important, right? How are we going to structure our database so that it can handle the hundreds of millions of records that we have right now? How are we going to optimize the performance of something so that our site doesn't go down when we get 100, thousands of people hammering on it at a certain time? How do we, prevent certain bad things from happening? These are, like, all infrastructure things, and those go in a bucket. And we have a lot of stuff that's could be done there, but that stuff's important, but it, like, doesn't ultimately change the user's habits of using the software. Then there is, like, surface level things. So someone will say, I'd like this link to go directly to this place so it's faster for me to click through. There's those, like, small tweaks that are usually pretty easy to do, but there's lots of them, so we have to prioritize which one we're going to do there. And then there's like totally new areas. Like, we have this core functionality that Pebble doesn't do today, and we want to build this new functionality. How is that new functionality going to sync in with what we already have? How is that? I mean, like earlier this year, we shipped the inbox, which was a massive new thing. Communication was a massive new thing, capability of Pebble. We had to really think through how that was all going to meld in, and that's where you really have to, like, do a bunch of interviews and spend a lot of time on UX and um, just try to dig into those core problem spaces and all those things. So those are, like, the three buckets. There's, like, infrastructure, refinements to existing things, and adding new things. And we try to balance out our work amongst those things. And it's a lot of it's just, on priority. Like, what, if the database is falling down, like, we got to prioritize that first. So yeah, that's
Got you.
sort of how it goes.
What would you say is one of the more memorable or exciting things that you've built into the product, whether we're working on it right now or in the past? And then
Hmm.
on the other side, I'll follow up again. But what was one of the most painful things to have to actually figure out within the app itself? So
So,
let's start with the good. What sort of sticks out as something that you've really enjoyed the
yeah,
process of building out?
yeah. So I really love when we show something to someone and they get like super pumped, and you can see it in their eyes. Like, we recently have been working on our dashboard to surface some more metrics about your business. So we're capturing a little bit more things like your ROI on your campaigns and those sorts of things. And I remember we were interviewing a bunch of users and showing them some screenshots of what that those metrics might look like. And I remember showing like our um, one of our calculation things, and they were like, "Wait a second, like this? So this is going to calculate the average profit across all my deals over a specific time range, and I can look back like this year and then last year and this year to this year and this month to this month." And we were like, "Yeah, that's the idea." And they were just like, that would be amazing. Like, they were explaining, like, I have a spreadsheet that I have to manually keep up to date and like go in there, and if this is all just calculated for me, this would be amazing. And so seeing somebody when it like clicks and they get that eyes open, like, whoa, like that can happen now. That's that's what I really love. I really love getting amped up when people get
Yeah.
excited about something we're doing.
And to play sort of the opposite end of things, it's really funny though. We sometimes we get requests for a feature over and over and over, and we I would say sometimes maybe fall into the pressure of building something out, and
Yeah.
it doesn't get used, and this is
Hmm.
quite normal in the space of SaaS.
Yeah.
This has happened to us, right?
Oh, so many times. Like, I don't have a specific, but yeah, a lot. So usually you'll hear key phrases like it would be cool if XXX, like XYZ, like what it would be cool if I could do this thing. And then that thing is like this sort of nebulous idea of something that is tangential to Pebble and our core thing. And we'll hear that those things multiple times. Like, it would be cool if I could, I don't know, share
Tag?
properties on, yeah, social media or something. Like, um, and yeah, and usually we hear it, and then we see the excitement, and then we get excited, and we're like, oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
But then you start unpacking it, and it's like, okay, well, if we did that, it would change this workflow, and if we did that, it would, so we would have to retrain our users, and maybe it's only useful if you're, say, listing your own properties. Like if you're using agents, which many of our users are, like this feature is kind of worthless to you. So it's really about just refining like that core why, and does like what how many people is this going to help,
yeah,
and how big of an impact is that going to have.
yeah,
And yeah, there have been lots of things that we thought would be killer features.
yeah.
Like one of them is, I'll just say it right here. We have on the properties page, we go to see all your properties. We have a bunch of filters. You can filter by acreage, by deal stage, like all these things. And people use those filters quite a bit. But then we had the idea of like, let's allow you to save those filters. So you can filter your properties in a bunch of different ways, and then you can save the filter. So later on you can come back and you could say, I want to pull up the filter that I had set previously. Well, we built that. I think that was a feature that I decided to build because I thought it was cool. We didn't really talk to any users about it. And we built it and nobody used it. And I think to this day, like, I mean, some people actually do use it and have said that they get value out of it. But I would say the vast majority of our users don't use that.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know it exists or they don't
Yeah.
know the use case. But like, if we could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have built that because it clearly didn't help a lot of people. So
Yeah, it's tough making those decisions, and this isn't me sort of saying, hey, don't give us input or don't give us feedback, don't give us feature suggestions. I mean, those are super
we do
helpful, but
love hearing it. Yeah.
it's really our job then to really deduce and figure out what are the problems that we're solving here, and figuring all of that out. But I just want you guys that are listening to get a perspective of what it's like, sort of running a completely different business within the same within this specific niche that we're all in, and that's also a really
Mm-hmm.
interesting concept too. I mean, what I mean, tell me, Kevin, how do you feel about it? We're in the space of land investing. So we're in land investing. We're very close with our land investors. We get
Mm-hmm.
involved with them. We go to events. We meet up, and but we're sort of also running things in parallel in a different dimension almost. Um,
Yeah, that's what it really is. Yeah. A different
yeah,
dimension.
how does that feel to you? I mean, I guess that's been the norm for us. I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting because I see as we've been scaling up Pebble, as we've been hiring people and getting ourselves to level up as leaders and as founders, I see so many parallels to land investors. They're doing the same thing. They're doing bigger and bigger deals. They're maybe taking more risks. They're maybe bringing in more people to help them out. And although our core product is different, like we're selling software, our land investors are selling land, the the back end mechanics, the like how do you hire? How do you choose what to focus on? How do you coordinate with your team? Like these things are all the same. And it transcends the type of business you're actually operating. And I've learned a ton of stuff talking to other land investors about their teams and how they think about things. And I hope that our story here about what we're doing now is, even though it's not directly related to doing land investing, building a company is still very, very important um, and really universal.
Speaking about building a team, I love what you talked about at the event that we were just at, and I don't know when this is going to get published. Probably a little bit later, but we were at an event just recently, which Kevin spoke at. But you talked about building a team and also starting to look at where things become painful for you. Can you? I don't want to talk. I'll
Yeah.
let you talk about it. Can you sort of explain to us what that's all about and how to build a team through that?
Yeah. So if you're just starting out, you're doing everything yourself. So you have to become the expert in every process of your business. In land, right? You got to be the due diligence expert. You got to be an expert in your county, in zoning, in how to get power and water and what are the regulations. And like you're the expert in everything. And that's great. Like if you're starting out, that should be your number one goal, to become an expert in as many facets of the business as you can. And to get to the point where things start becoming painful. Because if you're just starting out, you're just doing your first deal, likely things aren't painful yet. You're doing your eighth, 10th, 20th deal, like, okay, things are starting to pick up. Maybe you're doing more. Maybe you're having to be on the phone more often, and you're having to do more of your marketing things and all this stuff. Like, as you scale up, you're going to run into points where you're going to say, like, this thing that I have to do is really painful. And that is a signal that your business is telling you to change something. And if you're a technical person like me, the painful things are like the marketing side. Like, I suck at marketing. And so I can remember, when I had to put together my buyers list, and I had to do like marketing emails and, send out to my buyers list. And I just remember like dreading those days when I would have to write out an email and come up with ad copy. And I was just like, oh, I do not want to write out this email. I just feel so hokey doing it. And it doesn't feel right. And it was always a very painful process. And that pain led me to like find somebody to help me with doing ad copy and doing marketing and like organizing that side of my business. So um, that pain is a really important signal. And you, as an entrepreneur, you have two options. You can just push through the pain and get to some level of proficiency yourself. Likely you're not going to be great at it, but you're going to get to some point of proficiency, and to just keep doing that with every single thing you do. You just do it yourself. And that's like I said, that's great if that's what you want to do, but you are committing yourself to having a full-time job where you're going to be responsible for every aspect of this business. And where you really break free is listening to those painful things that you don't like doing, that are painful, and growing your way out of them. So bringing in somebody else to do those things that are painful. And that's where you become a true entrepreneur. Somebody who's doing this by themselves, I would say, is a business owner, you're running a land business, but you're not yet an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who can take those things that they've learned but suck at and bring in people to do those things, and then get to that next step, and then look at the next thing that's the most painful and bring somebody in to do that, and then raise up. And you're constantly trying to scale this ladder to get to the point where you can focus solely on those things that A, you're really good at, and B, you really enjoy doing. That should be your goal, is to get to that point where I can focus 100% of my time and effort on doing the things that I'm good at, that I really enjoy, and have a team of people that take care of all of the rest of the things. And that's our ultimate goal. That's my ultimate goal with Pebble, is to just focus on the things that I enjoy doing. And we've made a lot of progress getting there. But it takes a long time. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, Kevin, I'm sure people, again, when we're talking about land investing, and they know what it's like to be a land investor, and sort of what the day to day looks like. What does a typical middle of the week day look like for you and the team to run a business? And I think this is, again, probably a lot of people might be curious.
Yeah.
What does this look like? What do you guys are you guys just coding all day and like just answering emails? I'd love for you to share with them from your side of things. How do things look like on a typical, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, I was coding all day. I literally would wake up, I would answer support tickets. That the support tickets that couldn't be answered by our support people, I would get those. I would spend a couple hours digging through things and either logging bugs or answering how we can get through that issue. And then I would put my headphones on and I would code for like 6 hours. And that worked for a while. And then I sort of realized that I was doing more and more things that weren't coding, and I couldn't do that anymore. So anyways, back to your question. What do I do now on a typical day? Um, so we have like a team sync in the morning. Um, that happens just one day a week. For the product team, it's on Tuesday. So our lead developer will run that meeting basically, where he and I have discussed what we're going to focus on for the next week, and he's sort of prioritized the task for the week. And so we'll review what we did last week. We'll figure out what things we're going to do this week. We'll talk about the release that just went out. We do weekly releases, and then we'll try to make that short and sweet. Then I'll typically work on whatever's pressing. So for the past 3 weeks, I've been doing hiring. So a lot of interviews, was doing that. I typically try to talk to our users at some point, just like get somebody on a Zoom call and talk to them about our process, what they're doing. That's an important thing. I spent a lot of time talking with our designer, our lead designer. So she's typically working out ahead of our development team, and she's sort of taking the priorities that we have for the quarter and turning those into screens and into workflows. So she's doing a lot of customer interviews. Typically, I'll sit in on those customer interviews and talk through ideas with her, and then I'll review her ideas and do a lot of that. And then, yeah, so like these days, it's a lot of bouncing around and talking. I'll do some code review with our developers just to make sure that we're kind of keeping things in the right direction. That there's no like difficult things that maybe I can shine light on and how to tackle. So I'm doing code reviews, but less and less of that these days because our lead developer is just doing a great job. So um, that's my typical day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Kevin talked about, building a team and bringing on team members as well. This is really what it's all about when you're trying to scale a business, whether that means finding more time for yourself or to grow the business itself. And this is also what our challenge is all about, the Dirt Hacker Challenge. It's a 5-day challenge where we talk about some really actionable things to have in place so you can systemize, so you can automate, so you can scale up your business when it comes to land specifically. And this is a challenge that I run every so often now. So if you want to learn more about this, we are taking early signups. It's going to be launching early in 2024. We don't have a specific date yet, but if you want to get on that list, head over to dirthackerchallenge.com. We're going to be spending 5 days together, making sure you understand the different ways, the different tools, and how to build a team, how to build processes in a business. Because to us, repeatable processes are the unsexy things that don't get talked about to scaling a business. And you cannot do it without repeatable processes in place. Also, tools like to help you automate and to help you buy back time, how to hire and build out a team, how to train team members, how to delegate to team members. This is all that we're going to be talking about in the Dirt Hacker Challenge. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to dirthackerchallenge.com. Get on the wait list for that challenge. It is going to start early in 2024. We are going to cap it out because that first one that we're going to run, we're going to make sure we have things under our control. And then we're going to continue to run those over probably every other month in 2024. So if you're interested in that, head over to right now to dirthackerchallenge.com, get your name on that list, and then we'll let you know when that first challenge is going to happen. That's awesome. Um, what are you most excited about right now for Pebble?
Yeah.
Maybe the product side of things. I think this is it. You can get us excited about a lot of different things, but
Yeah. Um, well, we just hired a new developer who's coming on this month, which I'm really excited about. That'll allow us to hopefully increase our velocity a little bit more. So I'm really excited about her coming on. Um, let's see. We're tackling sort of some big picture things. One of which we have been talking about for I think 2 years, and I won't divulge exactly what it is, but yeah, we've been talking about this for 2 years. Like we've known that we've had to do this thing, and we're now finally going to do it. And so a lot of my time is like I've spent a lot of time thinking about it over 2 years. Now that it's actually going to be turned into screens, and I get to see it on like visually, that's kind of fun to just be like, oh wow, like this turned out totally different than I thought it would. Is always a fun thing to see. So that's I'm really excited
do
about
you not
that.
want to
Yeah.
share that because you don't ruin the surprise, or you're a little bit hesitant
Uh,
in terms of how things are going to pan out? And these are the real things that you think through. I know that you're very careful about what gets out there. So,
yeah.
what's sort of holding you back?
In terms of just, I mean, we could say what we're
Sharing.
working on.
You
Yeah,
can,
we're
yeah, no,
doing. Yeah, so like the big thing that we're thinking about right now is this like wallet system, um, which is basically a way to currently you send a bunch of mail and then we bill you afterwards,
yep,
and that can cause some friction with customers because sometimes they send a lot of mail and then we bill them and then they're like, whoa, like I didn't know this was going to cost so much. And so there's a lot of we get a lot of support tickets related to that, and it makes us feel bad when when we're not like
yeah,
abundantly clear what things are going to cost before you do them, and
yeah,
it's caused friction. So we want to solve that. So we're going to build essentially a wallet system where we'll be able to say this is exactly what this thing is going to cost, and you can
yeah,
pre preload your wallet basically, so you don't get into situations where you accidentally sent double the campaign that you wanted to and all of that stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um yeah, that's what we're working on right now. We've known about this for 2 years. We've talked about it for 2 years, maybe
yeah.
even longer. Gosh, we may have talked about this like within months of starting Pebble. And we are now finally at the point where we could start building this thing.
It's
And
so interesting. Again,
yeah.
it comes back to like how do we prioritize things? And yeah, there are certain things that I feel like were hugely asked for early on, but there was a place and time for it, and a reason why we sort of approached it now. And I don't know if we have an actual concrete answer for that, but
Mhm.
I don't know if it was the pain just got too much, or because we had to wait for certain foundations to be built. I mean,
Yeah.
any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, like a lot of it is like you said, you have to wait for things to be foundations to be built before you can tackle some of these
Yeah,
more complex things. And so a lot of times we'll have this dream in the future of like building this thing, but that dream is going to require us to restructure stuff to
yeah,
get there. And so we sort of plan those shorter term things and then get those foundational changes made before we can tackle the bigger feature. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Is
and
and it's yeah, it's just all about prioritization because we don't have unlimited developer bandwidth, and each thing, even if we did have 100 developers and 100 designers, coordinating all of that so that everybody is in sync and we're working on like a unified goal is actually way more challenging than having a small team. But just getting the ship all aligned so that we're all rowing in the right direction and we're not overstepping and getting out of our lane too far that we're doing work that's not going to be impactful. Like that's a really hard thing. And you can only row so fast. And so you have to be very choosy on what you go after. Like this wallet system, we had a workaround, which is workarounds to make it work, and that's a lot of times is our choice when it's like, hey, can we build this feature to solve this problem? A lot of it's like, what like alternative way could we do this today that doesn't require building anything, and let's try that first. Let's try doing the no code solution first. And if we have to hire somebody to like fill in and do some of those manual tasks, like that's fine. Let's get to a point where it becomes so painful that we have to do it. So yeah, that's a
I mean,
big thing.
that's part of our core value, the a progress over perfection. I mean, literally,
Yeah,
putting things in motion and be able to learn from those too. I mean,
learning is
low
so
code
huge.
solution has been so helpful for us to understand further what the problem is we're trying to solve. So,
Yeah.
um, another example, I didn't mean for you to actually spill the beans on that, and I'm totally fine. I wanted to dig in your head as to understanding, there's sometimes hesitancy on sharing things. That's just the reality of, running a business like this, especially when you're building out features. But the other example on a feature that we've already announced is our automation. By the time this is talked about, I think we're probably, or this is when this gets aired, we're probably coming closer and closer to launching this feature. But
Mhm.
automations has been, follow up automation has been there since God, like
Since
the
day
beginning
one,
of time, and
since when we launched Pebble, the first thing somebody asked for was probably, how can I automate a list of emails to a seller?
right,
And this has been a 3-year project because we knew, like, okay, if we want to get there, we got to build some sort of like contact system. How are contacts going to sync in with properties and deals and all this stuff? Then we got to build connection to an email client. Well, if we're going to do that, we have to have some sort of like inbox thing so I can handle emails that come in and out. So I got to build this inbox. Now we've got the inbox. Now we can start thinking about, okay, automating those email chains. But we basically had to do a 3-tiered process. Each one of those processes takes months before we can finally get to that grand vision of automated emails. So yeah, it it takes time.
yeah. All right, one more product question, and I got some random questions to wrap this up.
Sure.
Kevin, there's been a lot of buzz in 2023 about AI. Like me and you
AI, yeah.
we joke about how every software right now is just tagging it on AI this, AI that, and
Mm-hmm.
riding the wave right now. But I do think there's going to be a huge shift in things down the road. But I still think that's going to take time to really realize
Mm-hmm.
where the value is at. But where do you sort of see things with AI? And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts with that, and maybe in association with Pebble too. How could that potentially look like? Kind of putting you on the
Yeah.
spot.
So unless you've been living under a rock, like AI is the top of mind of pretty much every technology company out there. And it's been ours too. Like we've been using it. Like, I mean, I use ChatGPT almost all the time. So I know Jessey does too. And it's really remarkable to see what's there and what's possible, and some of the things that, I mean, I'm just blown away by some of the things that I'm seeing. Um, and then we're seeing another side of things, which is um, companies. Like you're seeing the startup world. Like if you want to get an investment dollar, you have to be building something in AI. basically. Like that's the only way a VC is going to fund you is if your company has their feet in AI. And existing companies are rolling out AI features. It seems like every day. It seems like every app I log into today has a big banner like check out our new AI calendar event composer or our new AI, tweet aggregator or some whatever it is. It's like everybody's doing AI. Um, that's cool. Like I'm really excited to see the iteration that's happening right now, and it's clearly there's a lot of stuff going on. We've made the conscious effort at Pebble to not jump into this pool whole hog. Like a lot of companies are doing that, and that's awesome. We are we are spending a lot of our time looking at things, trying out different products and seeing what's possible, and then figuring out how can we bring in those AI features into Pebble in a way that's going to be amazing, but also like result in actionable, useful things. I see a lot of products right now that like, okay, there's an AI email composer, and I can click a button and it'll compose me an email, but like, can't I just use ChatGPT and like copy paste in there? Like, am I really, I mean, it's just a couple clicks here that I'm saving. Like, I don't think that that's like a surface level thing that we could certainly add. We probably will, but it's not like changing the universe on how you can do things. We want to build something in that's really going to move the needle, and it just takes time to figure out what that is. And being a bootstrap SaaS company, we are not beholden to some investor who's just like a lot of these companies that you're seeing build all these AI features, they're VC funded startups. That VC wants to sell that company to the next VC, and that next VC wants to see AI. So that person who's investing today is going to be drilling it down that team's neck like you must build AI right now, ship it tomorrow. And if you're beholden to investment dollars, like you have there's no option. Like you just have to do that even if it sacrifices your product. Like even if your core product suffers in the long term because you have to do these AI things. Luckily, we are in a position, being a bootstrapped company, being profitable, we don't have that pressure. So we are going to take our time, see things out, and hopefully, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to work on these things, but I want to make sure that what we build is going to be super impactful.
Yeah, it certainly feels like the Wild West right now with AI
Yeah.
but it's really exciting to just kind of take a backseat and observe things and play with things and keep an eye on things. And Kevin and I are always digging things up, listening to things, and staying really close to the industry as things continue to unfold. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, it comes back to what you're saying. I mean, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? And is does it even need to be done with AI? I'm probably down the road, but we're going
Mm-hmm.
to put our money where we're going to be able to make the biggest impact, like you said. So um, it's exciting. I think it's just exciting, and to continue to just keep an ear on things. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. I'm sure a lot of people are salivating to hear a little bit about that, and what is our sort of take on that. So
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, I come to the what I call I think I call it the hot fire round. I forgot what I called it. But, some random
The hot
questions for
fire.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
or the quick fire round, whatever I called it. Uh, just so people can understand you a little bit more outside of coding, outside of work. What do you like to do in your free time?
Well, I have two young children, so the majority of my time is focused on them. Um, I play guitar, so I've been playing a lot of guitar. I sort of didn't play for I mean, I played, but just sort of like once in a while. And now I'm getting back into it. So that's what I spend a lot of time on. I bought this really old, beautiful house that I love, but when you buy an old house, there's just like a laundry list of things to do. So as a first time homeowner, I'm learning every aisle at Home Depot and all of the things to work on. It seems like every week I'm fixing or building something on the house. So I do a lot of that. Um, yeah, I'm really just like doing the family thing.
Um, I don't know if you're recently a Netflix watcher. I know you used to be, but is there any show that
Yeah,
you're currently watching right now, and why do
yeah.
you like?
So interestingly, my wife wanted to watch Band of Brothers,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
like the old World War II HBO series. I mean, it was like 20 years ago now, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, but yeah, I loved that the first time I watched it. So I was like, my wife's gonna be down with watching some war documentary style movies. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that. So we've been making our way through that. Um, yeah, that's
cool.
what we've been doing now. Yeah.
What do you wish you could do more of that you did as a child or as a kid?
As a kid, I really want to get a bike. I Now that I didn't have a bike in Korea, um, I'm gonna wait till the end of winter because it's hard to bike in the snow. But I think in the spring I'm gonna buy a bike and maybe buy bikes for the whole family. We've got
Yeah.
some really good bike trails around here, so just get into that.
What would you say is the biggest change moving from Korea back to the States? I mean, on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis,
hmm
what do you notice is the biggest difference?
Um. So just the thing that I notice is just there's less people. We lived in the center of Seoul. Like if you look at the map of Seoul, we were basically like right on the center, right on the river there. And you go outside and there's just people everywhere. There's shops around. I mean, it's like living in Manhattan basically. So, um, yeah, being here, there's fewer people, and it took me a while to sort of get used to it. I mean, we still live in a walkable neighborhood, so I go to coffee shops and everything, but there's a pace of life that is much slower, less connected than in Korea, which there are things I miss about the living in a beehive, but there's also it's nice to cool down a little bit too.
Sure. All right, last question here. If you could recommend a book that you recently read, what would it be and why?
Yeah. Let's see. So
Or
I
maybe
read
maybe a
yeah.
podcast. It's up to you.
Yeah. So I read a lot of business books. Um, I just started the 10x is 2x better than 2x. That's been good so far, but I'm not sure if it will be. That's
Yeah,
a good one. Oh, I've also started reading this book. What's it called? It's by Rick Rubin, the music producer, and
yeah.
if you look it up, it's like his main book. I think it's like top selling right now. But it's basically just a bunch of tiny little essays that he's collected over the years of working with some of the world's greatest musician artists, and just like talking about the artistic process
Mm,
and how to facilitate the creative process. That's ultimately his job, is to help artists get to that creative flow state. And so he talks a lot just about like how he does that, how he tears down the barriers and how he gets people comfortable. And it's like such a beautifully written book, and listening to him talk is like, it's like listening to this wise old grandfather who just happens to like mix Jay-Z and like all these crazy bands that I'm sure heard of. And so yeah, just hearing that wisdom is like really cool. Yeah, reading that.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, I've had a blast chatting with you on our 100th episode here. It's been an awesome journey together here, and we're going to continue this journey here. And I want to thank you. And I'm sure the whole community wants to thank you for all the things that you've done and all the impact you've made in the space, and will continue to make in the space. If you guys wanted to engage with Kevin, I'm not going to put out your email here, but we're live. There's a couple things that we do live together every like we've got our feature updates, and soon enough, Kevin, we're going to do some events in our virtual office. We're going to open up our virtual office
Oh yeah.
stage. And we have a bigger features coming out, and I think there's one. I'll hint this right now, but with our automations, we're planning on this. So you guys are going to come into our virtual office, kind of like our meta space, where you're going to come in and you can hang out and chat with Kevin as well. So that's going to be coming up. And you're not really active on social, but I don't know.
I'm not a marketing guy. I'm terrible on the social media. I just give me a computer and a dark corner I can code in. No, but my email is kevin@pebblerei.com, and that's a great way to get a hold of me if you want to talk about some of the stuff we're doing, like if I can help you with anything. I really enjoy just talking to people about who are in the trenches like we are. So if you ever want to do that, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Kevin, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jesse. Pleasure as well.
Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.